Hi everyone, Eileen here. I've got another Lavinia Stamps video tutorial for you today, from me to you, and it features the beautiful fox called Gideon, and how I coloured Gideon in for this card. It's a very quick card, very simple card, and I really had a lot of fun doing this. At the Lavinia Stamps weekend extravaganza for Halloween last weekend, I demonstrated this up there about 11 times, so I'm well practiced. Okay, right, let's get going then, and I'll show you how I did this. I have a piece of copy paper and some multifarious cardstock in cream from Lavinia Stamps. It's a topper, 13 centimetres square. This cardstock is really lovely, it's quite robust, and for this technique I'm using an sand ink eraser, and a sand eraser for ink, that's better. And I use it quite a lot on this technique, and this cardstock takes the punishment. Okay, so how did I start? I started off with a stencil, and in this instance I'm using Buds, one of my favourites, and some ink. I'm using Summertime from Versifying Claire to begin with, and I'm also using some Twilight. And somebody's nicked my brushes. Found them. Right, so starting off with the orange. Don't really want too much on, but need to see it, of course. So I've put it into the ink pad, and now I've taken a bit off on the copy paper, as you can see. So I'm just sticking towards the middle of the card. You don't want the pattern to be too uniform, but if it is, don't worry, because we're going to rub it out. So that's some orange, just a tiny amount, not too heavy-handed with the ink, because obviously the main feature is your fox, so the background is what it is, the background. And then the next part of it, I'm going to use Twilight. I'm not going to put any more Twilight onto this brush. This is a Lavinia Stamp stencil brush, because it's already got a lot in the bristles. So just try it on some, yeah, I can see it now. So just a few spots here and there. And let's see what I've got. And that will do really well. Now, I'm happy with the colours, not happy with the pattern. So I'm taking my sand eraser. This is a Tombow. Where's the one that I've been using with the name on it? Ah, here it is. This is a Tombow sand eraser, Tombow Mono sand eraser for ink. And the serial number is 512A. So that's a Tombow Mono sand eraser for ink. And, well, I've got 3 or 4 of these, and as you can see, they're all well loved. I'm not really happy with the configuration of this pattern, of this stencil. It's too large. So I'm just going to very quickly take off some of it, especially from around the side, so I've got more cream space. A bit more there, and just really take some of the pattern away. And if you take away too much, you could put the stencil back on and add some back in. But be aware, because you've disturbed the fibres on your cardstock with the eraser, it will suck in the ink more than it did it the first time that you've used the stencil on your card. So it's going to be a little bit darker as the fibres are broken. Now, I'm never without one of these brushes. This is just an old 2-inch do-it-yourself brush from a do-it-yourself shop, and it just takes away all the rubbish, all the debris that's left on your card, and that now gives me a subdued background, and that will allow me to show and give full stage to the beautiful fox. And here he is, Gideon. He's gorgeous. I'm using the VersaFine Claire Summertime again, and inking up Gideon totally. Every centimetre of him. Making sure he's well covered. And that is Summertime, I think, the name of this one. It is, yeah. I go into panic mode if I think that I've given you the wrong name. Now I'm moving over to VersaFine Claire Twilight. It's a dark blue, beautiful. Along with a very small smoothie, and I'm using the pointy end. Starting with Gideon's ears, I'm just gently tapping the blue colour all the way around on the right hand side of his body and along the bottom, down his leg, along the bottom, and along the bottom of the brush, his tail. Like so. Don't worry if it looks uneven, because you're going to put some more orange back on in a minute. And then I'm just going down on the edge of his face and snout. Just make sure that you put plenty on his ears and down that right hand side. And then I'm changing to another smaller smoothie to put some orange on. Ooh, go away, you're covered in ink, don't go over my card. So I'm going back to the Summertime. Now, whilst I was doing the demonstration up at the Lavinia Stamps Halloween extravaganza, which was fabulous, I did put the ink pad straight to the fox, the orange ink pad. It contaminated it quite badly. There was shock horror on some of the faces, so someone said, why don't you use a small smoothie? And I thought, why don't I use a small smoothie? So I am now. And it's much better. It did, if you're not careful, it will leave a bit of texture, and I didn't want that. I wanted it to be quite smooth. But if you're very gentle and don't press too heavily, you'll get a nice blend with the orange and the blue, and you shouldn't get too much texture. Okay. So I think I'm there now. Don't worry too much about this, because you're going to be using the eraser on the fox, and you're also going to be using coloured pencils. So whatever you get, all you're looking for is a crisp outline to work with. Your image might come out and it's splodgy and it looks not very smooth, but as long as the outline is crisp, and fingers crossed this will be, it will be fine. Down onto my cardstock, about 1 centimetre out from the left and about 1 centimetre just over from the bottom. Down he goes. Let the ink soak into the cardstock, and then pressing firmly. And up. Lovely. Now, let me get a pen here, or an implement. You can see that is splodgy in the middle and splodgy in the tail brush area, but the outline is lovely. And as long as you've got that outline, it doesn't matter what the infill is like on the image, as long as that outline is crisp. If it isn't, then bin your cardstock and start again. I've got a tiny little bit of ink there, which I want rid of. That's gone. And now I'm going to start developing and colouring in the fox. I'm using my favourite polychromos pencils. You can use any coloured pencils that you like, just don't use any water with them if they're watercolour pencils. And it doesn't really matter what they are, as long as they will give you a good blend. That's what you're after. I'm just swinging it round onto its side, my card topper, and starting off with a pale lemon, just going over the body. Keeping away from around the edges where it looks really good, that image. Don't want to destroy any of the fur that I've got that I can see in the design around the edges. Don't want to go near that. That's perfect. So leave it well alone. And I'm going to pop that on like so. Then I'm going for some orange and blending it into the blue. Now, how do you know when it's done? Well, you can carry on for as long as you like doing this, but I would say, just aim for a look that you like. There isn't a right way to do this. There isn't a wrong way to do this. Just aim for a look that you like. I'm not very good at colouring stuff in, but I know what I like. So they're the colours that I'm sticking with at the moment, but keeping them handy, I'm now going on to take some of the colour away. And this is where I've found that it starts to get really interesting. So I'm using my sand eraser quite firmly and removing some of the colour from the middle of his body. I'm really pushing down and removing. You can see the amount of debris that's coming off from the card and the bits of crayon that I've removed. And then onto the tail, the brush, his brush, just removing some there, staying away from that outer image that looks so good. Don't want to remove any of that. I'm just removing it from the middle. Now, taking my do-it-yourself brush, I've now got some more texture in, and I'm putting back in now some of the yellow. And as you start to put this yellow in, because you've now got a rough surface, or roughish, you get a different sort of look now. And I'm really loving that. And now I'm putting some yellow there. Yellow really lifts your image when you add yellow crayon to any of your images. It really lifts it. I've got quite a bit of orange there. I want to move some of that away. Maybe a bit more. So, and now I've taken away some of the blue. I'm very lightly, and I'm holding the pencil very lightly onto the surface and just popping that back in with a circular motion to blend rather than straightforward up and down, because that would just give you lines. And sometimes the lines are hard to get rid of. And again, I'm not an expert with this lark, but I know what I like. And once I've got the look that I like, I know to put the pencils down and say stop. I'm not there yet. But your instinct will tell you, because you'll go, oh, that's a bit of all right. So there's a bit of blue there. Now I'm going on to some darker orange, just to blend it in. These pencils blend so well. The Derwent Colour Soft pencils are brilliant as well for this. They really are. Now I want some more orange on his back. I will say this, you don't see many foxes of this colour out in the wild, okay? But as artwork, you can do what you want. And I love this. Going back to the lemon again, just to blend in and smooth out any lines. I'm just going to check my blue. The blue that I'm using is a dark indigo, and I've also got, if I can find it, I've also got one of my favourite colours, Prussian blue. So the Prussian blue I'm using inside, away from the edge, just for a little bit more blending. Look, this is not difficult, is it? Huh? It's relaxing. Just take your time. It's a quick card that takes a little while. Okay. Right. And then using a darker blue, and this one is dark indigo. And that just blends in the twilight ink of what's left of it. You notice I've stayed well away from Gideon's face and ears. And then a little bit more orange, but paler orange in there. Like so. And then last but not least, I'm back to the eraser. So I've got all the colours that I like, but now I'm going to blend them in with the eraser, and that will remove some of the colour as well, quite firmly. And if you take off too much, you can put it back in again with the crayons. That's the beauty of it. Now, I like this look. You might like a more solid look to your colouring. That's your choice. I like the sort of the hazy look in the middle. Artistically, it isn't right. I mean, you don't get shadows like this sort of hitting the body and leaving the rest. But I just like the look of it, you know. And art is in the eye of the beholder, and I'm the beholder, so whoopee-doo, I'm pleased with that. Now, just removing just a tiny bit more there. I'm going to hold this up into the camera so you can see a bit more. What do you think? I love that. See, doesn't take long, does it? And it's easy. What's next? Oh, a little bit more stamping might be a good idea. In fact, it would be a fabulous idea if I could find the stamp. Have I left it in here? Yes, here it is. This is a stamp from Lavinia Stamps called Fairy Wishes and Angel Kisses. Now, in my original card that I did, I used this absolutely gorgeous. Look, you can't see it, but it's so old. And not as old as I am, but it's still old. And it really is a fabulous stamp. And I used this when I did this card originally, but I'm afraid you can't get this one anymore. And so I'm using one from Lavinia Stamps, and I've gone for the shape of the words in a square configuration rather than a long, narrow stamp. I wanted the same look that I got with that other stamp, which was sort of a square configuration. So VersaFine Clear, Twilight, not going for black, it's too harsh. I want the stamp to match the outline of the fox. Gentle tapping, and then fingers crossed that I don't ruin all this by putting the words down and they're not straight. I think I've got it right there. I will tell you this, if the words aren't straight, you're going to have to forgive me or squint, because there's no way that I'm redoing this film, okay? This will be the third time. Right. Now that's perfect. Now where, to begin with, I took out some of the colour from the stencil. Oh, I've got a bit of ink there. Okay, and back comes the eraser. Fabulous. I'm going to put some back in, but in the area that I want it. So using the good old yellow again, I'm just going to very lightly pop a bit of colour in there. I'm going to add a little bit of yellow here. You can't see where the stencil was. I can just. And then I'm also going to pop in a little bit of orange here. Very tiny amounts, because this is when you can ruin things. And about maybe a little bit there. Just to bring that back up. And in fact, overdone it there. So where's the eraser? Away we go. And that, apart, oh, yes, got to do something else. I'm looking for my black Sharpie. I'd use a dark blue Sharpie if I had one, but I haven't got one, so I must get one of them. Using a piece of copy paper. So, piece of copy paper to protect my work from my fingers, and I'm just going to draw a line all the way around to frame it. Now this is in black, but you do get away with that because the line that you're putting on is at the side of your cardstock, and it isn't too heavy. It just gives it a slight frame. And then if you take a card blank in the same size, oh, and this is one that I made earlier with the original stamp that I did and with another Lavinia stamps. I'm not sure what this one is called, foliage, I think. I'm not sure. But again, I got at this with the eraser. I just rubbed a bit of it out because it was just too overpowering in the background. So it's 13 by 13 centimetres. I made a cut. This is larger, in fact. Sorry, I'm lying to you. This is 13 by 13 centimetres. This is slightly larger. I think this is 14 by 14. Make a card blank and then put your topper in the middle. I really enjoyed that. I hope that you give it a go and you let me see what you've done. If you can tag me, I would be really grateful. Thank you so much for all of the lovely comments and messages you send me. Thank you for supporting me. It's really appreciated. And have a lovely weekend. So, let's get my display board out and say bye-bye. There's the card I made earlier. There's the one that I've just finished. And this is another one that I had on Facebook as well. Pop that there. So, triple amounts of the fabulous Gideon. What do you think? Thanks for watching. Bye for now.